Hey guys, this is Rob Fell with Iris Factory Automation. I'm really excited because this is going to be the beginning of our series of Iris 10 Years, What We've Learned. So as kind of a opening to that, I just kind of want to get into maybe what your psyche should be when you're thinking about potentially starting your own business. And I just want to be clear, I love the idea of being an entrepreneur, but really what I love is the idea of just people doing what they want to do in terms of their career to make them happy. So, take a little bit away from this as far as some of it's about, potentially starting your own business. Part of it is really about just making a move in your career that makes you happy. And the takeaway from this, amongst other things, is, don't stay where you're at because you're unhappy. Either voice your opinion to someone that you're working for and share with them maybe why you're not getting as much out of your employment as you possibly could be, or maybe make a decision to do something else. So before I even get into it, I just want to give you a little bit about myself. I think a lot of people get on YouTube and they get on LinkedIn and they talk about stuff and you don't even really know about them. You don't know about them as a person. You don't know about them as a professional. And, I think it's important to know what people have been through. Too often you may ask somebody a question, they say, do that or don't do that. And for me, it's always like, well, have you done that? Have you been there? Have you been through some things? So just to give you a quick background. So I've been in the factory automation business for the better part of 20 years now, which kind of sucks to say that because that means I'm getting old. But I started out, I got my degree was in physics. I had an undergrad in business administration. And, I kind of didn't really know where I wanted to go. So I went into technical sales because I enjoyed science and engineering, but I really didn't have an engineering degree. So I went into technical sales. I worked in corporate America for, the better part of 13 years, saw a lot of different facets of that. Enjoyed that, and then eventually went off to start my own company. But in that, within those 15 years, as a kind of a side hustle, I built houses from 2005 to 2009. I saw one of the worst economic crises that we've ever seen during that time, learned a ton from that. I started Iris in, June of 2013, have been running that business for 10 years now. Over that 10 years, I have been, divorced twice. I have 5 beautiful kids that, I kind of revolve my life around. I have 4 sons and a daughter. I've been sued. I have sued. I've had a business partner. I've lost a business partner in June of 2020, or November 2020 rather. I went through. I had a stroke. So I don't have it all figured out, but I've been through a lot. So when I share things with you, I'm sharing things from the perspective of somebody who's I've been there and done that, right? And again, I don't want to play that I got it all figured out, but I certainly want to be honest about the fact that I've been through some stuff. I understand what business does to you as an individual. I know what it does to you and your family, and it's a real serious decision if you want to go off and start a business. And everyone's going to have a different journey, but this is my journey. So number one, this isn't going to be really the mechanics of things. This is the series that we're going to release soon is the mechanics of the business. What this is really, what are the things that you want to think about as you're starting a business? So the first thing is why are you doing it? Are you starting a business because you want some degree of legacy, maybe for your family that you can leave to your kids? Are you starting a business because you want to chase a passion? Are you starting a business because you hate your job? Are you, what is your motivation? And the reason that this is really super important is having a business, starting a business, running a business is hard. It's exhausting. It's mentally taxing. It's defeating. It's all these things. And I would say in some of the darkest moments of having a business and feeling like, things may be hopeless financially or you don't, you feel like you can't get a win. Going back to why you did it is really important. So for me, I was in sales. I knew to go anywhere in my career, I had to travel a ton, and I just didn't want to. Like I said, I have five kids. I have 4 sons and a daughter, and I want to be home for them. I'm at every game. I coach all their sports, I do kids things 7 days a week, basically. So for me, that was a big motivation. Is I said, hey, not only do I want the freedom of being home and being part of, my kids' lives, but the other part of it was I didn't really fit in. I didn't fit into corporate America. I didn't rule follow. I didn't do a good job of operating by the standards that people, set. It's funny. My review was almost like every year. My my yearly review is, performs well, does not play well with others, good salesperson, but probably that's about it. And I was like, why do I have to be subject to somebody else's opinion of me? Why don't I start to take me into my own hands? And eventually that's what I did, and that's why I started the business. Is I again wanted to be with my family, and also really wanted to kind of, get in where I fit in, as Vanilla Ice would say. I hate to make a Vanilla Ice reference. It's so old. He builds houses now. He doesn't even rap anymore. That's awesome. He never really rapped in the first place. So that was the first thing. So the first thing is to know why you're doing it. Have a good idea of why you're doing it, because you're going to need that in the dark times. The second thing is be aware of your legal obligations. I think, we have a very litigious society. Are you contractually obligated to your existing employer or some other entity where, starting your own business, especially if it's potentially competitive to what you're doing right now, is an issue? I'll be honest. I left my employer in June of 2013. We had kind of a very soft, agreement in place as a sales person. They're hard to enforce, but I left, and they decided to take legal action because they didn't like that I left, and they didn't like that certain clients came with me. So they wanted to have a temper tantrum about it. So they decided to sue, and they had really good attorneys, and they spent a lot of money, and they won some money. But I think for me, it was like, they won the battle, I won the war kind of thing. But I think looking back, if I was more conscious of what my contractual obligations were, and really how I went about it. When I left, I was in my young 30s. I was probably way too cocky and really kind of went out in like a hail of gunfire, and it didn't need to be that way. So be aware of any legal obligation, and if you're in a situation where you feel like it might become precarious legally, be tactful, be honest, be transparent, and I think when you do that, for the most part, you can work your way through things, even if you're in a bad situation legally where you can't go start something. The third thing is where are you at in your life? Okay, so I love it. My oldest son, who's 15, is very entrepreneurial. He's like, Dad, I want to start this and I want to start that. And I'm always like, good. And I think back, I'm like, gosh, I wish I had what he has. I didn't really get into this, like I said, until I was in my 30s, so I love that he's into it. He's at a great point in his life, but think about that when you're making the decision to potentially make any move, make a career move. Again, I'm not advocating to start a business necessarily. I'm advocating to do what you think is best for you, right? So when you think about those decisions, think about where you're at, because in a weird way, life is very short in some capacity, but life is very long in some capacity. So I wish I would have started younger. I wish somebody would have said, don't be in a rush to go get a house. Don't be in a rush to go get married. I wish someone would have said, be in a rush to learn something. Be in a rush to try something. Stay at home for a little while. Don't have any bills. Don't tie yourself down with obligations that are going to force the hand of your life where you have to go in this direction. So, if you're young, do it. Just do it. You may feel like you have things, you're like, I can't do this because that. It's not true. If you could get yourself outside of, your perception of what's going on, you probably find that you're in a pretty good position. For me, I, at the time, was 33. I had 3 relatively young kids. I was married at the time. My wife had a job, and I had a savings, and I had plans. So I kind of really, it was a risk certainly, but it was a calculated risk. So I think everybody needs to be conscious of where are they at in life? What are some sacrifices? I use that term sacrifices because it's really not, because it's such a long game that, do the small things, stay home, save some money, don't go buy a fancy car. It's worth it. because when you see the way that escalates later, right now at 44, I'm so glad that I made the decision at 33. Maybe I wish I would have made it at 23. Hindsight's 2020, but just kind of like evaluate where you're at. And part of that is also knowing what's your, kind of like what's your staying power. Is you start a business. I didn't make money for months and months and months and months, which as an income generator, when I left the position that I was in, I was doing well. And, when I started Iris, there was just a long time that we didn't make money, and that was super stressful. So I think you need to be aware of that, because it sounds weird, but the last thing you want to kill your business is money, right? If you can rely on your passion, your creativity, and your desire and all those things, and not let money kill it before it gets started, that's a really great thing. So really, really think about that. And as part of that, think of how far you need to go in, right? Now, maybe better than ever is a time where you can kind of go half in and have a side hustle and learn about your business and what you're good at and what you're not, while you're still having an income. Like for me, when I was building houses, I was still working full time. So when the economy collapsed, I was really lucky that I had that, because building houses was really just a side hustle, and I still had my primary income. So, not only knowing where you're at, but what your options are as far as starting the business is a big deal as well. Number 4, sensitive topic for me. Do you want a business partner? I had a business partner, and when I think back on this, I kind of like look at it a couple different ways. When I left my previous company, I started this business. What I needed was a programmer. I was a salesperson. I needed a programmer. That was what we did. We did integration and programming, right? What I took on was a business partner. My particular relationship did not work out well. And, so I think naturally I kind of feel strongly about a business partner relationship in the wrong way. But here's what I'll tell you. If you want to go start a business, think about the people that you need and the resources that you need, and don't feel inclined to be like, hey, if you're going to be part of my dream, that means you're a 50-50 person if you're going to join me because you're taking this leap. Don't be afraid to like feel proud and confident in your own like propriety and your own confidence in your own dream. And if somebody else wants to come into that, that's fine. Even if they're a partner, make them a minority share. The worst thing that you can do is enter in a 50-50 partnership, because in every business there's a juncture that happens, right? And someone's going to be right, someone's going to be wrong, you're going to want this or want that. And if you're 50-50 partners, it results in a stalemate. So no matter what, if you want to start a business, you want to bring people in as part of your business, don't take on 50-50 partners. Just don't. I had a partner that eventually was bought out of the business in 2019. Good guy, he was a good friend, but we got into a partner situation. We had a disagreement, it didn't go well. And really, it was kind of like, he went out for milk one day and didn't show up for 2 years, and then it ended in court. And it just was bad. It affected my life. It affected my family. It affected my marriage. So I would be very, very cautious about, taking on business partners, and be pretty vigilant about your operating agreement. So your operating agreement is really going to be the defining rules, and I promise we wouldn't get into mechanics, but it's going to be the defining rules of your business if you have people involved in your business other than you, and even some degree if it's just you, it will still define things. So be aware of the fact that you can really craft that agreement to suit you. It's your business, it's your dream, it's your risk. Do it how you want to do it. Don't be a little, kind of unapologetic in the way that you structure things, because you want them to suit you well as you move forward. So as far as number 5, evaluate yourself. Think about, do you have the will to do it? If someone were to ask me, like, what is one of the most important traits of starting and running a business? I would say a high pain tolerance, because it's exhausting, and the bigger it gets hard in different ways. You know, I spend most of my time now really working with team members and like working through their problems and their challenges and trying to help them with their career, which is like I love doing and I love it for them, but it's mentally taxing because whenever you give of yourself, you know, to somebody else, it's a little bit of a displacement of what you have inside, and it can be tiring, and you go home and you're kind of mentally exhausted, and you're still happy, you're still satisfied, but you know, you still put all these things out there, and it can be very tiring. So and that's just on the back end, right? I mean, I've kind of done all the hard stuff. We got going, we got a customer base, we figured out what we were good at, all things I'll talk about in later videos, but like, you know, it's never easy. So if you think you're starting a business because it's going to be easier than what you do right now, it's probably not. You know, I'll use this as an example. So, you know, I mentioned I worked at a pretty big company before I left and started Iris, and I was in sales. So like we'd sell something like, you know, send an invoice or send this or do this. And I remember my first time, like, you know, our first sale here, I was like, we should send an invoice. And I was like, how do you send an invoice, right? Like, and then I'd look up, you know, how to do that. And you're like, oh, you need a software for that. You're like, oh, we got to go get a software now. And then like, well, how do I want this? So it's like, you find this scale of like, I have to do this very like kind of mundane task that you're used to. And then you find this tail of things that you never thought of that I'm hoping this video series is going to help you guys with. But you know, it's really, really, really hard and really tiring. You need to be really, really vigilant and committed, you know, to what you're doing. So think about that. In that, also think about your support network. I have to take a drink break, excuse me. If someone asked me today what was the single largest contributing factor to our success today, I would say it was because I surrounded myself with people who wanted me to be successful and who wanted us to be successful. You know, and that includes like our team today. It's all people who, like, everyone comes to work because, you know, everyone has their own motivations. Obviously, we all need to survive and this and that. But like, I like to believe that, you know, what we have here is, you know, created a culture of people who want to come because they kind of want us to win in general. Leading up to this video, you know, our marketing person, McKenna was like, you know, worried about setting up all the phones and cameras, and you know, my own mother is, you know, does our books, and she runs in here to put makeup on my face, and Brittany from inside sales is like, let's make sure it's going to look right, and like, you know, people are calling in and checking in, like, that's cool. I mean, that's really neat, and that was from the beginning. We were really lucky. We had customers and we had partners, people who are actually competitors to us today, and really were at that time, but they wanted to see us win. And like, that was really inspiring to me because, you know, it's easy to just turn away, you know, and I think when you help someone grow up, what they really did was they helped me and us grow up, and now we can help other people grow up. Because now, as I see like new organizations that, because we're kind of a bigger player now, right? So like, you know, we spend a lot of money with people, and we have the ability to you know, donate equipment and time and finances and things like that. And I love doing that because we're paying it forward because people did it for us. So be aware of your support network and think about, not that you ever want to consider a plan B, but there is some reality to, if it doesn't go exactly to plan, who do I have around me that's going to be in my corner, that's going to be able to, you know, to help. So I think having that support network is really certain, like it's just so key. So the next thing, number 7, is, do you have a good business plan? I kind of sit in the middle of this. So like, plans and goals are different. Yeah, I say that all the time. Plans and goals are different, right? Plans change, goals don't, in my opinion. Like, you set a goal, and that's your goal. And your plan changes and modifies based on kind of what's going on. So, you know, I think the most important thing is have a good starting point. Like, one of my favorite sayings is, don't get it perfect, just get it started. And there's some reality to that. So, back to my son again, he's like, oh, I want to do this. I'm like, yeah, do that. And then he has ADD a little bit, so he's like his dad, so he scoots off to the next thing. He's like, oh, I think I want to try this. I'm like, hey, pick a thing, do a thing. Pick a thing, do a thing. Let's try something. Let's learn something, okay? And be aware of the fact that, like, starting a business, I'll kind of use the metaphor of, like, you're going to jump into a river with a raft and a paddle, and that river is rough, right? And sometimes you're going to paddle in the direction that you want to, and sometimes that river is going to kind of take you where it wants to. So you have to start. Just do it. Just do one thing, and you're going to learn. And when people are like, well, I don't want to fail. I don't want to say there's no such thing, but, like, you only fail when you quit, right? You fail when you die. You fail when you're out of the game, and you're playing the long game, right? Even if you start a business and you try something and you fail and you learned, when you go to the next business, you're going to be that much more qualified to start the next business. People are so afraid to fail, and they always make excuses like, I fail all the time, man. I fuck shit up all the time. I still struggle today with decisions, daily decisions. But you fail, and you learn. And then you adjust. And then the next time you make that decision, you're going to be that much better. So it's not it's not binary, right? It's not like you start something and, like, I'm going to win or I'm going to lose. I'm going to succeed or I'm going to fail. It's not. Because even in failure, there's winning. And the winning is knowledge and learning and experience. Especially if you're young, you think you know a lot about a lot. You don't. You just don't. You got to do things. You got to learn things. You got to have your ass handed to you a couple times. You got to try stuff. Like, I remember thinking to myself when I was a young salesperson, like, well, I can do what that guy does. Maybe you can generate sales, but, like, you don't know what that guy knows. And you haven't been through what that woman has been through. And you don't have perspective. That's the most powerful thing that comes with experience, is perspective. Perspective, enables you to be able to build a team around you that you can understand and relate to and lead and guide, because you kind of have been there and done that. And perspective, to some degree gives you wisdom. And then wisdom is a builder of trust, with the people around you. So I would say, pick a thing, do a thing, just get started. All right, so what are we up to? We're up to number 8. What is the absolute bare minimum amount of tools, equipment, space, and resources that you need to get your business started? People are like, oh, I need to go get an office. I need a space. I need all brand new computers. I need this and that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Debt kills. Debt kills. I'm super proud. We've been in business for 10 years. We're a multi-million dollar business. We own our own building. We have a bunch of people who work here. And other than the building itself, we're debt-free as an organization. And today we're going to be talking about banking a little bit. And people take different perspectives. Some people say, hey, let's, use good debt, right? Use good debt to grow your business. I agree with that too. For me, debt kills. So run your business as thin as you can, as long as you can. Don't ransack your business for money. It's the worst thing you can do. You get a little bit of money in the bank, and the first thing you want to do is like, I'm going to go out and buy a car, I'm going to go buy a brand new computer, I'm going to go to the office. Don't do that. Don't do that, because you're crippling your business. You're crippling your business. Cash is king, right? I need to go hire somebody. I need a salesperson. I need an engineer. I need a marketing person. I need maybe a little bit more space. I need a little bit more equipment. Have money. Have money. Because the money that you don't spend today pays exponential dividends later in its ability to reinvest in your business, and watch how that money pays off, right? Because now today, I love the fact that I can walk around here and think about the fact that I was conservative financially, saved a bunch of money, let it accumulate in the business, reinvested it into people,
And I'm so proud to walk around. I look at office and office and office and office and see these people that are working hard, working for them, working for me, working for all of us. That's awesome. And if you spend all your money and you try to be something that you're not, you're going to cripple yourself, from being something ultimately that you could be, right? So don't cash in too early on yourself, and don't get yourself in trouble spending more money than you absolutely need to. So speaking of money, and one of the topics we'll talk about today when we have our bank in a little bit is, where do you get funding from? Be creative. You don't, especially now, like there's more tools now than ever before that are available to anybody, but especially to like small business owners and entrepreneurs, like to manage your CRM and to manage your accounting and manage your marketing and it's all there and it's all relatively inexpensive. So really think about you don't need to go spend a bunch of money, and you want to have some money at your disposal. So I love personally zero interest credit cards, right? Go out today, get a zero interest credit card. Take a look at your bank account, make sure you have some savings available. If you want to take on some angel investors or some friends and family type things, that's great. Again, for me, I love not owing anybody anything. So I would rather look at cheap money. And then once you kind of get a little further along, you can go to banks and you can get things like lines of credit, for your business, or some kind of home equity loan. So there's lots of different options for that. And then the last thing I would say is, make sure that you have nailed down the fundamentals of your business. And we're going to talk about this in this video series. And when I say fundamentals is, think about your accounting, think about your legal, think about your insurance, think about your incorporation documents, permits, licenses. Really take a little bit of time and think about what those things are that you need to have in order, because starting your business off on the right foot in terms of a good solid foundation of all the fundamental things you need is really, really important. So we're going to talk about that more in this. If you heard people talking very loudly out there, that was our first person coming in, which is JB. So just in closing, I've talked a lot. I appreciate you listening. I'm passionate about this. Go do it. Go do what it is that you want to do. If you want to change jobs, do that. If you love if you think you love your job where you're at, and maybe you want to advocate for yourself a little bit more to say, I think I can give a little bit more, or I'd like to try something different, go do that. There's no risk there, because if your employer really respects you and wants you to be there, they're going to say, hey, yeah, let's give you a shot to do that. If you want to start that business, think about it, do a little bit of planning, get your thoughts together, pick a point, pick a thing, do a thing, and just get started. And most importantly, if it's anything I can leave you guys with, is it takes a lot of work. There is no easy path. You can watch any random motivational video that's the same thing, but I'm telling you, I've gone down this path. It just takes a bunch of work. It also takes a bunch of love, and it takes a bunch of people around you who care about you. And it takes a certain amount of determination to make it happen. But it's all worth it, because it's your life. Probably just get one run, and I think you should take advantage of it. So I hope this helped a little bit, and we'll see you guys all soon.